imagine what you could accomplish if you weren't afraid to fail. I'm like, dude, you're going to be fine. Don't be afraid to stumble. Don't be afraid to fall. When we were kids, we weren't afraid. For most of us, especially to entrepreneurs, that's what it takes. We can't be taught something. We have to go live it.
If I could go back in my lifetime and say, what's a big mistake? I wish I figured this out earlier.
Ask questions, ask why.
It takes a special leader to help you grow in a certain role.
Doesn't matter how I speak, doesn't matter how I look.
And it holds true as you think big and don't let anybody stop you.
Now that's a success story.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on this episode of Success Stories. I'm Steve Cross, the host, and today we have a fellow Buckeye, Carlos Sanchez at the Continental Roof Company, the president down there. Carlos, appreciate you being on for us today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Carlos, let's get to it. Very first question I always ask: when you think back about your journey, your professional journey, and your success story, where does that begin for you?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question because as I get older, I dig deeper in my past. But you know, I think in my professional career, answering the newspaper ad that said roofing sales needed, no experience necessary. I think that's what set me on the course to where I'm sitting here in front of you today. To be honest.
How did that journey go for you? And kind of set the frame of like, how long ago was that? Were you young, like fresh in your professional career?
It was 94. I was 22, 23, maybe 24. I'm not sure, right in there somewhere. I had just moved back from California. I'm originally from California, grew up in Texas for most of my life, and then had moved back to California to go to school. I went to school to become a forensic pathologist of all things. I wanted to figure out why people died, dissect the body and figure it out. And, I had to get a job. I didn't have a scholarship or was doing, so I was having to pay for school on my own. And having a job caused me to see the power of money and, and have that at my disposal. So I dropped out of school, moved back to Texas, and quickly thereafter, saw the ad in the paper for roofing sales needed, no experience necessary. And I was, I hadn't finished school, so I didn't have a degree in what I was looking to do. And I just needed to put some food on the table. And that's where I stepped into it.
Yeah, necessity, right? Just finding a way to make it happen.
The mother of invention. Yep.
Yep. So take me through a little bit further in that journey. Did you hop? Obviously you kind of probably fell in love with the industry because that's where you went into a business with, right?
Actually, no, I hated it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, I hated it. I was a very, very quiet, shy introvert back then. I didn't grow into where I am right now until many, many years later. I was in my 30s by the time I came out of a shell, if you want to call it that. I was just a very quiet, shy artist, writer. That was my world, and I took the job on mostly because my brother had taken the job and they needed more people, so he urged me to apply, and I quickly went from the sales portion into admin. I was at the small roofing company for just a few months before a large roofing company found out about me and recruited me basically to run a division within this large roofing company, and that's where my career kind of took off. I became the director of the repair department, and then I became VP of the company. I ended up moving out to Austin to open up a satellite store for the roofing company. And right about then is when my brother started his own roofing company, and he recruited me out of that company, and we kind of took off on the storm chasing thing for several years. And that's where it became rough for me as a quiet introvert, going to different places, trying to meet new people. Was tough. My sales skills were more of let me let you know who I am. If you want to buy from me, that's cool. If not, that's fine too. I was very much a very passive type person. So, but being behind the desk and dealing with type A personalities like the salespeople, dealing with the contractors, kind of pulled me into that world. And I enjoy it. I love it. I've grown to love the industry that helps me not only put food on the table, but I also we do a lot of community outreach stuff, and that's what where our hearts are, and that's where my heart is especially. So the ability to do that was nurtured through this roofing endeavor of mine. And we I'm very grateful and blessed that God plucked me out of that world and tossed me in and said, here, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Trust me.
Yeah.
You'll get it. And I have, and I do.
Yeah. Yeah, something can be said, always said for blind faith, right? Of just being,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the same company you're with today?
No, I started my own
Yeah.
company. I
Okay.
I got recruited from the Texas office to a roofing company out here in Cincinnati. I was commuting back and forth from my house in Pearland, Texas, just south of Houston, to Vandalia, Ohio, where I opened up a satellite office for a roofing company that was based out of Cincinnati. I was there for about 2 or 3 years before I started Continental and opened up my own.
Gotcha. Gotcha. When did how long you been in business then with
Fif-
Continental?
15 years, roughly.
15.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, what was the catalyst to make you want to make the jump, be an
Well,
entrepreneur?
really, yeah, that's funny you say that because I call myself the reluctant entrepreneur. I never really, it wasn't that wasn't my wheelhouse. But I hate to say it, but money was some shady stuff was going on with my pay
Yeah.
in that company, and after 2 or 3 years of the same thing every year, bonuses being cut, promises being made and not upheld, then I've decided just to take off and do my own thing. And most at that point, the only thing holding me back for a long time, actually, the only thing holding me back was the fear of failing. Honestly, I was
Yeah.
just afraid to fail. Having that cushy salary and not having to go out and do your things on my own, it became a crutch. So I finally had to, really honestly just get the faith in myself built up enough to where I can take off and do it.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not alone in that. It's probably 50-50 of people that I talk to, people that are like have the I guess they describe it as more ignorance than confidence because looking back, they're like, oh, I was confident I could do it, but looking back now, I was like, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And
Yeah,
then other people like yourself are more, you probably knew you could do it, but just didn't have the confidence to just make it happen.
yeah, that's so true because the people that have the confidence but don't know what they're doing are the ones that go bankrupt. That's funny.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
right.
every day here in
Yeah.
our industry. It's rife with that salesperson, that hotshot salesperson that thinks I can do this on my own and takes off, and before you know it, the year is out. He's filing for bankruptcy. So
Yeah. In your industry, that's kind of common, right? People, companies coming and going. You've
yeah,
probably seen a bunch, right?
yeah, it's very unregulated. There's no licensing. One of the things I've been asked before, what would you teach? What would be the first thing you would teach someone coming into entrepreneurship? I told them learn how to run a business, learn the intricacies, the accounting, the accounts payables, accounts receivables, just budgets. Learn that. I was blessed to have been offered to go through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and
Oh,
uh, and it's kind of like an MBA in 6 weeks. Kind of, they just really just very intense on
I bet.
how what makes a company run and how to be able to do some simple things like reading your ledger and balancing your budgets. Just a really really neat program that I went through, and that kind of opened my eyes to all the different things that even 10 years ago, I didn't know. It's just it was amazing. So that's what I tell everybody. If you're going to start off on your own on your venture and open up your own business, even if it's just a one-man show, learn what it means to own a business, learn what it takes to own a business, the different pieces and phases and structure of a company, and that'll help you with longevity.
Yeah, for sure. It's the boring things that people don't think about when it comes to running a business. That's what, helps you succeed and gets you that past that 5 year mark to 10, 15, 20. For us, for an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
start it, the sexy part, the glamorous part, and you coming from sales, those dopamine hits of closing the deal and the revenue and seeing that,
yeah.
that's to me anyway, I believe we're kind of similar in that way that that's the exciting part. That's the, getting to help people, finishing those projects as well, that you do and seeing and helping people in need, and doing right ethically. I feel like you got some good moral compass, and it's probably, described why you left the last place. It sound like an ethical concern, but those pieces, they aren't sexy. It's just, it's the day to day. That's what makes you successful though.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree with that
Yeah.
100%.
So as you started your own company, I'm assuming you started off still doing sales, um, at the new place, Continental. Do you still do sales, or kind of what's your day to day look like now? How do you spend your
Absolutely.
time?
Honestly, it's a little bit of everything. It's one of the reasons why we also own a software, a CRM type software that we built little by little to kind of help run things, the intangibles, the measurements, the estimates. We're trying to automate as much as possible, use AI as much as possible. But yeah, early on I did I still do it, a little bit of everything. I enjoy the sale, just like you said. There's nothing like that smile on a person's face, being able to come in and close a deal, put the project on and collect the check. And, nowadays I don't really get a commission, but I get the sense of accomplishment. I think that's where I get my dopamine is accomplishing something, especially with the background that I referenced earlier, just being a quiet, shy kid and really getting to see what all that's about. But yeah, I still do that. As a matter of fact, I shot from a house, hopped up on a roof to take a look at some components that we needed for the estimate. I worked on the estimate prior to getting on here with you, and I'll go right back to it as soon as we're done.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do as an entrepreneur, right? You're wide. You widen yourself,
Yeah.
not just a singular role. And then, as you get wider, probably as you start to look for an exit or retirement or a succession plan, then you start to get narrow again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Have you
you kind of
started
have to.
thinking about that yet?
Oh yeah, especially because I got the VCs and private equity knocking on my door. We know
Oh,
how much it would take to. So and I, they're we're a small company in relation to what they're looking for. We do 3-4 million maybe. They're looking for 5 million or more, and I'm like, if I'm making 5 million, I'm making 1 million in profit. Why would I kill the goose that's laying the golden egg?
yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me. But at some point, I will need to because my wife's going to demand it, and at that point is when we'll cross the bridge, the proverbial
Yeah.
bridge.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You bring up the VC firms, like they're hitting the Midwest hard,
Oh
and
yeah.
all the service-based companies, every industry, anything service-based, they're coming after us. So, tell me a little bit about Continental. You talked about your revenue a little bit. How many employees do you have? Like, what kind of, do you guys are strictly residential? You commercial, industrial? You do the whole gamut, or?
We do the whole gamut. We've got 7 employees, I believe, something like 6 or 7, between sales and admin. We do commercial, typically light commercial. We're not geared to do the massive Walmarts and that type of thing, but we do small commercial projects on a regular basis. And obviously residential, multifamily, single family, property investments. We've got our biggest niche is real estate and insurance. And I don't mean by insurance claims. I mean, our connections with insurance agents. I was an adjuster for
Really?
a few years, many, many years ago. And because of that, I know the ins and outs. My VP of development is a former insurance agent. So we have a little bit of insight on that world. So we're able to connect with insurance agents. And then what I tell all my real estate agents is that we speak closings. One thing we've learned is that you can do these connections and build these connections and nurture these relationships in the middle of the year so that when the storm hits, you don't have to go chase a storm. The storm chases you. And it's been a theme throughout here where all our sales guys are involved within a networking group of some sort or another. The big one out here for us is BNI, Business Network International. It's it helps you connect. It helps you brings out your personality when you're having to meet with people and talk to people. So we not just encourage it, but we mandate it with our sales guys, and it's proven fruitful. It's a lot of fun, first of all, to be able to meet and talk and greet people after hours and so forth. But you're also getting business out of it on a regular basis, and that's what we love. That continuous, residual.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the BNI group, it kind of aligns with your sales. It's more of a passive sales, right? Just networking, always being present rather than, bellying up at the table and being aggressive
Right.
type of sales approach, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
We're,
Yep.
we're, I think that beast is going out by way of the dinosaurs, especially with the virtual rooms that are being out. We're pushing that hard here within our own company, is being able to do as much virtual and pulling in the technology as much as possible to make the job easier, safer, keeping people off of roofs, being able to present a project with color visualization brought in. There's a lot of cool things that we're able to use nowadays, and we utilize that 100%.
Every industry, like technology's touching everybody different ways, and how it's being applied is always blows my mind from one guest to another. So, you talked about your history now. What do you kind of see on the horizon for your industry? We touched upon it a little bit right there with AI and the visualization and things of that nature. What do you see for your industry as a whole going forward?
Well, I think we're in an industry that's recession proof, first of all. We're not selling widgets or the latest fashion that's a trend. It's a roof. We call the fifth wall. You need it. People need it. If you're buying a home, you're going to end up having to use it. I drive through Cincinnati and all parts around here every day going, oh my gosh, there's so much work out here. I think the companies that are so invested in insurance claims, I think we'll slowly have to transition out of that and more into a retail space because insurance is getting tougher. Deductibles are getting larger. It's becoming tougher and tougher to get a roof bought within our market here, especially. But I can imagine what it's like in Dallas, where they get hit with hail every 2 or 3 times a year. So there's a lot of things that are going that way, and I think the more we become vested in the technology that makes things easier, and we're able to maximize the profit, which means we're able to do jobs for, less than what we were able to do before. And that holds up well with our customer base, as you can imagine, when we're 10, 15, 20% cheaper than the big boy out here that's owned by a private equity firm that's trying to maximize their profit. People are jumping all over it. So we're excited about that.
So along your entrepreneurial journey, was there a key people or person, mentor, or anyone that you can kind of pinpoint, been like, this person really helped me, and that and sometimes that's a professional mentor, and other times, a lot of times it's like, my significant other or my spouse, without that, type of thing. Who's that person or people for you?
Well, there's been so many. There's been from the guy that owned that big, large roofing company, Mike Brinkman, that I worked for many, many years. He showed me what it takes to run a company with people. He was a people person, and he enjoyed sitting down and having a cocktail with us. It was just I learned how to deal with a company in that way, and that you're able to treat them as family and not just employees. But Simon Sinek, that just
Mhm.
listening to his why TED
Yeah.
talk, that was huge for me because I'd always been that guy. I'd always been, pushing more about why I'm doing this, the things that I'm able to do with the money that I'm making, the outreach, community outreach, the nonprofits. I sit on the board of the BBB now. There's a lot of cool things that we're doing right now that were unheard of just a few years ago within our market, within our industry, period. And it's starting to spread out, and I'm glad that the movement is there because I've always said that if the roofing company, the roofing industry, um, got together as a whole and did some really great things in the community, it'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Mass amounts of money that would be poured into, whatever, homelessness or, battered women. There's so many different things, and Cincinnati is a great place for it. This area is known for its nonprofits. There's a lot of work here being done in the community, and I'm not trying to be no tree hugger or anything. I'm just letting you know that there's so much good that can be done, and that's what fills my heart. So we're able to do that. The company is our vessel in order to go, do those things.
Yeah, love it. Love it. How do you think you changed from being an employee to being an entrepreneur with because you had to be, an active leader, right? And it sounds like you had some leadership roles, but there's a difference between having a role of leadership and being the leader. So
Sure.
how did that come out of you? Especially, you talk about being an introvert and needing to learn and create those pieces of your personality. How did that go for you?
Yeah, I think I'm still a work in progress, to be honest with you. As the company matures and it goes into its different phases, I'm doing the same thing. Learning to talk to people, number one, was key in being able to communicate what you have to say clearly, concisely. You are the leader, you are the owner of the company. I've got to make sure that what I'm saying is being done. What I'm asking of these guys is being
Yeah.
done, and there's nothing that can prove that more than results. And that's what I love about it is when you do the things that we're trying to teach you to do, you're going to get results. It ain't going to be overnight. That's the problem with a lot of the guys that are coming into our industry is they want to get rich overnight. That's not how the way it works anymore. Like if you want to go chase a storm and make 50 or 60 grand in 2 months, knocking on doors, that's great, but that's only going to last for a little while, especially when you get a family and you got kids and you got to roll out to that next storm and leave your family behind. That gets to be tough. I lived it, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. And you're gonna have to grow roots at some point, and part of that is that growing the limbs, hanging out on the limb. It's a very very intrinsic feeling do you have when you own a company? Because it's not just all gravy. You know that. It's there's a lot of stress to it. Learning how to manage that stress. It's one of the biggest things that I've gone through the last 2 or 3 years is my faith has grown to the point to where I'm doing the things that I need to do to make this company run the way it needs to run. Uh, and I'm doing it with reckless faith. I'm doing it with blind faith. There's a lot of things that we're out there hanging out on the limb on and taking time and money and investing in people and situations and organizations and I've always thought, well, I think now more than ever that as long as I'm doing the things that God wants me to do, then He's going to take care of me, and that's what I'm hoping for.
So if you had some words of wisdom for somebody, if you could, give yourself, 20 years ago, some words of wisdom or some guidance, and also maybe apply that to somebody else that, it's coming up in the ranks or thinking about being an entrepreneur, what would you say to them? What are some words of wisdom that you would give to them?
Yeah, that's cool because I've been asked this before, and the one thing that I keep going back to is this coffee mug that I saw on the desk of someone years ago. It said, "Imagine what you could accomplish if you weren't afraid to fail." And that's where I love to push people. You know, everybody freaks out about money. That's like the one thing that people freak out about. I'm like, dude, you're gonna be fine. You're surrounded by people that care for you. You're in an industry where you can at any given moment stop, go sell a roof and put a roof on and make some money. Don't be afraid to stumble. Don't be afraid to fall. When we were kids, we weren't afraid. We ran and like banshees and fell and scraped and bumped and we learned our lessons from that. And for most of us, especially to entrepreneurs, that's what it takes. We can't be taught something. We have to go live it. We have to go experience
Yeah.
it. That's just the way of life. So
Yeah, that's a truth too about that. Like, yeah, we want to have our own experiences, right? We want to have our own failures, and I
that's
think we always say that, like, failure is part of the journey,
yeah, yeah.
right? It's not the destination. It's not the finality. It's just part to get to be successful.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's almost
yeah,
like a badge. It's just like the bruise of the scrape was. Back in the day, you used to talk about your scars.
yeah. Scarred up for sure.
Same thing, yeah, yeah. I talk fondly about some of my failures because out of that came some great, great moments and times and things that have happened in the past. So I'm very grateful for that. That's the crazy thing about how God works is he takes your weaknesses and makes them into your strength. So
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that. What's one a failure that you can pinpoint, maybe in your entrepreneurial journey when you started the company, or maybe early on, but for our listeners, more applicable to this entrepreneur journey.
well, I think the big one was putting more faith into the the karma that things will happen. You've got to just continue to do the things that and doing good things. There's a lot of people out here that when I say doing the things that it's going to take means doing something shady or fraudulent. I don't mean by that. As long as you're doing things with a good heart, and performing what you need to perform, how you need to perform to take care of your family and friends, then things are going to come back around. One of the things that we push here again is the networking, and part of that is givers gain. It's going out and doing things for people, going out and giving, going out and volunteering, and it's very reciprocal. You'll get it back tenfold. One of the big things that I thought about that really has nothing to do about my entrepreneurial, but when I was a kid, I was pushed ahead in school. I was a year and a half younger than everybody in my class. So I was shorter, skinnier than everyone in my class. When I was 13 years old, I was walking by a gym and there's this huge guy sitting out front and he says, "Come on in, come check it out." So me and my brother and a couple of buddies walked in and at 13 years old, I started working out, and because of that, I am probably the healthiest 58-year-old you're going to ever meet. I eat well. I exercise almost daily. Pilates 2 days a week. So God took that me being afraid and scared of being short and embarrassed of being skinny, and took that weakness and made it into my strength now, so that now I'm living a healthy life without even thinking about it. So I'm very grateful for that. But there's a lot of moments in your life that you won't even realize affected you in that way. That's why I tell everybody there's nothing is coincidence. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. Just because you can't figure it out doesn't mean it didn't.
Yeah, yeah. I love your perspective. Always a good twist. I love it. Carlos, where can the listeners find out more about you and follow along and Continental Roof Company as well?
Sure. Well, My Cincy Roofer, www.mycincyroofer.com. That's Cincy with a Y, Cincy, is our website. You can, Google me or, YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube videos, Carlos Sanchez roofing, podcasts that I've done in the past. It's pretty easy, Cincinnati, Ohio. We're based out of Westchester, which is kind of like a suburb, outside of Cincinnati, between Cincinnati and Dayton. It's one of the cool things about being here is that everybody talks about how far places are. I'm like, you've never lived in Texas. If you ever lived in Texas, you wouldn't be complaining about the 15-minute drive.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of a lot, and that's really, really cool.
Excellent. Well, Carlos, I appreciate you taking some time out for us today and sharing a little bit about your journey and your ups, your downs, and your commitment to faith and letting that guide you in your entrepreneurial journey. And I wish nothing but the best of luck for you and continued success.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Everybody stick around for more content. Subscribe. We got more coming. Thanks.